Because say if I was in a party with a couple other bards, we could all potentially use venomous bite at the same time, and it would not impact us at all. It would still, do whatever the typical standard is. What would be affected are enfeeblements, um, or enhancements that, well, yeah, it would be enfeeblements really, that are happening to the boss. Because, like, one of the dots from Summoner is called Virus. Once it's placed and is going through its cycle, the boss gets an enhancement. Well, yeah, so it would be enhancement or an enfeeblement. I apologize. I'm kind of all over the place. It would cause an enhancement called autoimmunity, I believe. And what that means is it will keep him from being vulnerable to virus again. So if I was a summoner and somebody else was a summoner and I did virus, that person would want to know if the boss was immune or not, because it would be pointless for them to cast virus and not be able to use it for whatever the cooldown time is, because you're limited on how often you can use it. It would be pointless for two summoners to use them close together because then it's counterproductive. But the good thing is, Square Enix enabled it that if you do click this, display only detrimental effects you would inflict. Basically, the dots will show up, your dots, and only your dots, but you will still see the general enhancements and enfeeblements that are on the boss. So whether he's blinded, whether he's slowed, whether he has like um, the autoimmunity, all that will still show regardless of who gave it to him. It doesn't matter. If he's blinded, there's no point in somebody else doing an attack that will blind him if he has the autoimmunity, etc., etc. I also do the display target's remaining health percentage because it kind of helps keep track of how fast the boss is dying. It's more important towards the end of the boss's life cycle, because it may look like he's almost dead at 5%, but if your group has been consistently killing him at, say, 1% every 5 seconds and he's at 5%, well, then you still have 25 seconds to go to kill him. I mean, I know that sounds like super over analytical, but that can really make or break some choices towards the end of a boss's life if you're fighting a really, really hard boss. So to make a long story short, I like to check this just so I can see my dots so they're not buried in the midst of a whole bunch of other people, because I want to know when I need to be placing them for me, because you want to refresh them as soon as you can. And I like to keep my target's HP percentage available so I know how to play towards the end. I also leave the party list settings alone because by default they put the tank on the top, and then the healer and the DPS, and it's a good setup to have. The control settings: the standard type is character based and will follow behind your character no matter what. If you're standing still and you move around, hey, but as soon as you start moving, you will go in that direction. The legacy type is camera based, and I prefer this one. If I move the camera this way and start moving this way, it will stay that way. It does not automatically snap back, and that's very important to me because you could have enemies coming this way 1 minute and I could be fighting them, and all of a sudden something comes back this way and I just want to quick go around and do this, but I may still want to see, or I may want to see a side view if there's constantly enemies over here and over there and I have to switch back and forth all the time. I'm not going to want that snapback constantly doing this. That's probably going to make me dizzy. So it's nice if I can just do this and kind of go back and forth on my own without the camera restricting my view. The flying mount takeoff, I leave it to where if I jump I automatically fly. If you wish, though, you can take off on a double jump instead in case you are running and you just want to jump over a rock and not take off flying through the air. Be aware, though, that you don't get a flying mount until after you have beaten the main, the Realm Reborn main story, and you're going into Heaven's Word, you get a flying mount, but you have to go through all the hoopla to get that to actually fly. So that's not something you have to worry about right away. I also like to skip the cutscenes. What this does is it only skips the previous ones. That way, if you want to watch for the first time, that's fine. But if you don't want to watch it every single time you go into the fight, you don't have to. It's really nice if you're grinding or you're trying to, do a rush run. That way, you're not, waiting for it to load in and out. And I skip the housing cutscenes too. That it doesn't affect me. And I leave all of this alone. A lot of this, if you're on a keyboard, you can adjust manually anyway. Like I can do control up and down, and it will move it for me. The target, I leave these alone, and the filters, I leave these alone too. But this can actually be very beneficial if you are playing with a controller. Because especially if you do not have a mouse, this can make or break healing for random people in Fates, and it can make or break attacking enemies. The character I leave alone except for the inventory settings. The inventory interface, this is what it looks like, and you're stuck with this if you're on a PlayStation 3. I know from experience. But if you're on a PlayStation 4 or a PC, you can check the expanded setting, which shows you all your tabs at once, except for the key items and crystals. This makes it a lot easier if you're trying to organize, sell, see what you have. That way you're not going through one tab at a time. You can also check that for your retainer once you have one. And you can also check if, depending on which character I'm on, I may or may not have these checked. I put newly crafted items into my inventory because they usually get sold. I usually don't keep them, but if I want them to go into my armory chest instead, I can uncheck this. And if I'm getting items from dungeons, I can, or quests or people, I can have this automatically go to my armory chest, which is separate from my inventory. Or I can have it go default to, if I uncheck this, it automatically goes to the inventory. But I don't mind if stuff automatically goes to my to these. And you can also sort these. Just oh, here we go. I like to sort based on category. It makes it easier when I'm going through my things, and they kind of keep certain items grouped together. And I will leave these on once you get comfortable, though. But I recently had a hard drive wipe, so I'm going to leave these on to remind me, like, hey, you have special items. Do you want to get rid of them or not? Because normally I would have everything set to a specific gear set list. That way I would know, like, hey, these are automatically my bard items, or these are my ninja items, or what have you. So I would pretty well know if I'm getting rid of something, I'm getting rid of it. But because I don't have everything set to a list right now, I'm going to leave these on just to remind me, hey, this is an important item. You may or may not want to sell it. And the mouse, I do like to be able to click on myself, especially if I'm healing. Of course, I'm not a healer, but it just makes it easier if I want to, examine or do anything like that. And that pretty well concludes the character configuration. Similarly, you can do the system configuration, which you can reach by hitting the system button or start button if you're on a PlayStation, and go to system configuration. And as you can see, it would also be Control K if you have a keyboard. I play borderless window, but you can set your height, width, gamma, your refresh rate, your sounds. I leave the music off when mounted, but you can pick that if you want. Different mounts have different music if you have the special mounts. And I had to adjust this all kinds of kooky ways depending on how I like to listen to the game. I like the music louder than everything else, especially since I'm doing this. Um, I would rather have you guys appreciating the music while I talk instead of me talking and a bunch of noise. And oh, wait, I am the noise and the music. So I try to keep that up. And I also have the master volume way down because I have a lot of friends whose Skype settings and their mics make them sound very, very quiet. So I have to keep my system turned up very loud, but I have to turn the game down so I can hear them. And the graphics settings, typically you just leave this stuff alone, but if you want to turn certain effects off, if you have a weaker system, and turn some of these off so it's not killing itself to make the game work, you can do that. They also kind of have presets where you can do. Mine actually works really good on high laptop for some reason. Mouse settings, I leave this alone. The gamepad settings, I leave that alone, especially since I don't play with one. And this is your screenshot format. You can pick PNG or JPEG, and you can pick where you want it to save. It defaults in documents, believe it or not. And you can pick how long it is before you go AFK. You can display up to 30 windows if you wish, if you're on a PlayStation, otherwise, or on a PC. But you can do less than that or unlimited if you like. I have 30. I don't think I've ever had 30 open windows, although when I first started playing, I was used to playing on my PlayStation, and I would go to type something and it automatically starts typing in the chat box because you can't use keyboard actions. Like I couldn't go 1 2 3 like you see here to do the actions. You can use a mouse though, but I couldn't do 1 2 3 4 5 6. So what it does is it automatically defaults to the chat box when you start typing. So when I switched over to the PC, I didn't realize you had to hit enter first before you started typing. So I'd be like having all these things open at once, and it was kind of scary. So be aware. If you've recently changed from PlayStation to PC, it may take you a while to acclimate to that. It kind of drove me nuts at first, but I absolutely love the keyboard shortcuts. I would not trade that for the world. That is something you do not get on a PlayStation. The cutscene audio and stuff you can change too, but I'm not too worried about it. And the accessibility, whatever. You can have some visual alerts if you like, and it is what it is. So that was the character configuration and system configuration. Let's see, how long have I been going now? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how long I've been going. I'm not even sure how to check, and I did not look at a clock when I started this. I guess I'll just go ahead and do the HUD. Why not? It shouldn't be that hard to explain. You know what? No, I will do that separate because I'm going to show you guys how to place the actions and how that all works together. So this concludes this video. If you want to catch me